Time and time again, police officers continue to show us why it is that we should just not be trusting of them. Oftentimes, police officers are overworked. Yes, I have no problem saying that. They have an incredibly tough job. They see a lot of things that most humans would crumble under seeing, whether it's dead bodies, whether it's having to take a life, whether it is some of the most gruesome offenses we've ever seen to some of the most innocent people or animals out there. But that will never give officers the right to have a power trip and use excessive force in an effort to try and bend somebody who is obviously defenseless to their own will.
Hamilton officer facing a 20-day suspension now for a takedown where a man was knocked out cold, waiting to be booked into jail. Hamilton police releasing video of this 62-year-old's arrest on a misdemeanor warrant back in September. Officer Stephen Heffernan told investigators the man refused to sit down at the police station, then lunged at him.
You see Officer Stephen Heffernan bringing a man in for processing. The man sits down at the booking desk, hands behind his back. He continues talking with Officer Heffernan for maybe about a minute or so before standing up. Heffernan walks around the desk, pushes the man into the wall 2 times behind the bench before then grabbing him by the shoulders and slamming him down into that desk. Police releasing this call to dispatch.
Start a squad. Booking. I need a supervisor back here also.
That's clear. Can you advise on the squad need?
He hit his head. He's unconscious.
About 3 minutes after the man was slammed down, another officer arrives, and he and Officer Heffernan help the man sit up as he regains consciousness. Another minute later, the 2 officers applying paper towels to his head. And then, 7 minutes after the initial incident, paramedics arrive and remove the man from that room. A police use of force report says he went to Bethesda Butler Hospital with a severe head laceration.
A police incident summary says the suspect required 14 staples in October. The Hamilton Police Department and Officer Heffernan agreed to discipline for violating prisoner rules. That agreement included a 20-day suspension along with an extra duty suspension of 6 months. He also had to complete remedial training by this week and go to behavioral counseling.
Now, Hamilton police released a video of the 62-year-old man who was being arrested on a misdemeanor warrant in September. Officer Stephan was the one who told investigators that the man just refused to sit down and supposedly lunged at him and or kicked him in the stomach. There's been conflicting reports. It might have been both as well. Unfortunately, in my personal opinion, that still just does not give you the right to take somebody who's already handcuffed and slam them into a fucking concrete wall. Unfortunately, in my personal opinion, even if he did try to kick the officer or try to charge the officer, the man was 62 years old and he was handcuffed. How exactly can you justify taking this man by the collar and just flinging him into concrete like that? Now, the 62-year-old did end up going to Bethesda Butler Hospital with a severe laceration on his head, which required 14 staples. On top of that, he was unconscious for over a minute at that point in time when his head hit the concrete and started to pool some blood. First and foremost, if you're unconscious for any lengthy period of time, especially due to a head injury, there are lasting effects that could come down the line, whether it's days, weeks, or months, hell, even years later. Not to mention the fact that the man was 62 fucking years old. Like, was he truly a threat? Don't get me wrong. At any age, you could be a threat. We've had 5-year-olds shoot people and we've had 50-year-olds shoot people. So I totally understand exactly how any age could be a threat, unfortunately. But the man was handcuffed, old dude, and just because he didn't want to sit down, this officer took it upon himself to go ahead and physically assault him. This continues to be a never-ending cycle of police officers on a power trip trying to exert some level of authority over another person's body in an effort to try and make them bend to their will. You have an instance like this where a man is handcuffed, attacked by a police officer, and he ends up getting what? A 20-day, most likely paid suspension, 6 months of not being able to make overtime, and a remedial class of, oh, we're gonna have to talk about our feelings to make sure we don't go ahead and assault people, rather than him being charged with assault or him being suspended indefinitely. Or hell, I'd even take him being reassigned from any level of interaction with inmates whatsoever or any intake whatsoever. Have him be pushing papers. It's obvious to me that Officer Heffernan just does not have the ability to deal with somebody who might be unruly. So what ends up happening if that was a female, just a little 125-pound drunken female who refused to sit down? Is he going to do the same thing to the next person like that? Just pick them up and Batista bomb their ass into some concrete to try and make them sit down? And it continues the cycle. We see constantly how cops are protected in this way by the blue wall. So then you start seeing more and more people being afraid or unwilling to comply with orders that are being given to them during traffic stops, which then leads to even further charges being put against them. Oftentimes we're told, oh, just comply, turn around and sue them later, turn around and file a complaint later. But the thing is that in those moments, people aren't thinking about that. People are thinking about their immediate safety. So when you have a power-hungry police officer who's out on the streets or interacting with people who are probably not having a good day to start with, this is what you're left with. Somebody getting assaulted for absolutely no reason. Now, I will say that after this entire incident occurred, they ended up trying to charge Yorty with assault on a police officer for kicking him in the stomach. But apparently they decided, you know what, that would be even more bad press than what we're already having to deal with. So they decided to drop those charges. So let me get this straight. You can have a 62-year-old man who's handcuffed behind his back, have his head slammed into the concrete, not once, not twice, but 3 separate fucking times, and you're thinking to yourself, you know what, instead of charging the police officer for excessive force or assault on a civilian, we're gonna charge the 62-year-old with assault on a police officer. Exactly how does that make sense? Now I can understand if this was just an everyday traffic stop, the police pulled the guy out of the car, he started flinging and flailing and started punching and screaming and all that. Absolutely, charge him with assault on a police officer. Or hell, let's even take this situation as well. If the police officer was just walking up to the man and he went to kick him, or they got into a little bit of a confrontation and he started kicking him, then yeah, charge him with assault as well. But the simple fact is that the police officer, the freaking moron who's supposed to be protecting these inmates, because yes, that's exactly what their job is, went ahead and escalated the situation to something it never needed to be. Initially being the aggressor, slamming his head into the concrete the first time, slamming the back of his head into the concrete the second time, and then flinging him across the room like a fucking sack of potatoes. I just think that so long as our institution continues to protect bad cops, that things will never change. You'll continue to have bad cops initiate some sort of an aggressive manner against a person, inflicting upon their rights as a civilian, which will then breed fear and untrust in the normal everyday walking around civilians with cops, which will continue to lead to even more unnecessary encounters between police and civilians, where people will continue to resist what it is that they're being told in fear of something like this happening to them. At which point you then have the police officers who are finally getting tired of all of this unruly unrest, so they turn around and do some dumb shit like this. Now I know some people are going to say, hey, there are good cops out there, and I agree with you. The majority of cops that are out there just want to do their job. It's the select few of cops that turn around and make it difficult for everybody else. But if you're a good cop out there and you don't push for more reform, or you don't push for harsher punishments, or hell, even just getting the punishments that some of these officers deserve after they violate their own policies, or hell, break the fucking law, then what exactly is it that we're doing here? All you're doing is just creating a perpetual cycle of constant incarceration and police officers getting away with something until it's so egregiously unjust that something actually has to happen, and even then it doesn't necessarily happen. Personally, I think that some of these dumb movements that have occurred, like the BLM movement or the defund police movement, has gone ahead and created even more divide, even more tension between civilian and police officer, so that way more instances like this continue to happen. The more tension and distrust between police officers and civilians, the more likely this type of stuff will be happening on an even more daily basis than it already is. Now, I'm not saying that I have the fucking solution here. Obviously, I'm just one person. But what I am saying is that we can at least turn around and start with accepting accountability here. Accepting accountability on the police officer side and accepting accountability on the civilian side. Because I'm not sitting here saying that criminals or civilians don't do anything wrong. I mean, there's plenty of times where people turn a misdemeanor into a felony for no apparent reason whatsoever, and that's definitely bad. They need to go ahead and accept accountability for that. But what I am saying is if that we start having accountability being taken across the board, things might actually start moving into the right direction. But those are just my thoughts. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Hit that like and subscribe button, and I will catch you in the next one.